All right, welcome everybody to another episode of Edible Software. Today, what we're going to talk about is strictly inventory reports. So, if you're looking for packout reports, we actually covered that in our packout training, so we have already covered all of these. So, if you don't have that video, of course, let us know, and we will go ahead and send that to you. So, today we're covering specifically reports under inventory and inventory reports. So, it should be a pretty quick training. I'm not going to go into the greatest of detail for all of them because a lot of the information is going to be repeated. So you will probably find this training to be a bit repetitive as far as what we are seeing and what we're filtering by. But so is the case for our inventory reports. So let's go ahead and get started. And I'm just going to go down the list. Any reports that you see, there might be some that I decide to skip because they might be more client specific or they might be attached to a separate module that not everybody has. In that case, I would go over that later on when I talk about that specific module. But I'm just going to go down this list. And again, if you have any more questions or any further questions over a specific report, let me know in the chat window. So the first report we actually kind of covered in our last training, but I'm going to go over it again just in case, is the adjustments report. So the adjustments report is pretty straightforward, and I am a big fan of it. Basically, you can set your date range, and you can filter by any of these options right here, by inventory item if you wanted to look up a specific item. If you wanted to see for a specific adjustment reason, why did we write off certain items for damage or spoilage or whatever the case may be. So you could choose a specific adjustment reason to report for. You can choose for a specific warehouse if any of you are using multiple warehouses. And then, of course, you could filter the list of items shown by the PO buyer. So it's actually by the lot number that the PO buyer is assigned to. So, and then of course you can order by code, description, or the transaction date. But essentially, when I run this report, and I'm going to go ahead and backdate this just a little bit so we can capture some good information. When I preview this report, I'm going to see my items, my descriptions, the date of the lot, or I apologize, the date of the transaction or the date of the adjustment, the lot number, and then of course, the reason code as to why it was removed or added in. So here, of course, I have my adjustment amounts. I also have the warehouse it happened in and the user that made that adjustment. So of course, if we wanted to know why something was actually adjusted out, if they didn't add a note in for that adjustment that would appear under the item, then of course you could go ask that user, why did you make this adjustment? And then of course it gives us our report totals down at the bottom so that we can really see the total quantity of what was adjusted for that date range. So pretty straightforward. The major differences are basically how you're filtering. Of course, you can also export this report to Excel. Just a quick general note, and I believe I have mentioned this on some of the other report trainings that we've had. You may see some reports that have export options and some that don't. The reason that an Excel export would not exist for a report is that it wasn't requested. Any Excel reports were requested by a client, and we have included those afterwards. So anything you don't see an Excel export for, if you would like to see one, let us know and we can see what it would take to create that. All right, moving on from the adjustment report, we see an allergen and packaging report. So I'm not going to go into great detail. It's a pretty straightforward report for those of you who are using allergens or for those of you who are using packaging types that are set up in code maintenance and then linked to the item in the item master. This is pretty much a report that shows items and their allergens or their types of packaging. So again, pretty straightforward. Again, you can filter or sort by some of this information down here, but this is essentially what it looks like. So if you had types of packaging, you would see that down here. And then of course you would see any allergens for those items. So I don't have a lot of items set up with allergens or types of packaging. I believe I do have one pecan pie that I set up for plastic just to show in this report, but that's basically it. So again, pretty straightforward. It's just that particular or that very specific information for those items. All right, moving on, the AP suspense report. So, very good report to run at the end of the month, or those of you maybe not going monthly on your fiscal periods, at the end of the fiscal period when you are balancing out. So, this is going to show you what you currently have as far as open receivers or open purchase orders that have been received but have not been billed yet under payable invoices. So this is going to show me, I can look up my standard or my summary. So the major difference between these are this is going to show the actual purchase order numbers. Summary, I believe, is going to summarize by vendor. But you can order by PO or by vendor, item code, receiving date, whichever one makes more sense to you. And then if you wanted to print zero amounts, like purchase orders that have items with $0 amount, you can choose to print those subtitle by PO or subtotal. That's the word. Subtotal by PO or subtotal by original currency of purchase order. So these are just these are just options that you have. But essentially, what you're going to do is you're going to prepare the report as of a certain date. And then you can filter even further by the vendor or the PO buyer if you wanted to. But essentially, this is going to give you any received POs that haven't been billed yet up to this date. So if I click preview, I should probably have quite a few because I don't believe I have been billing these out, which is just bad on my end as far as running this database. But pretty straightforward. It shows you the PO number. It shows you the items on that purchase order, so it will print the PO number twice or multiple times for each line item. It shows you the receiving date, the quantity, the cost, and the total cost. So again, this is a good report to run for the end of the fiscal period. If you're trying to close a period and it tells you you have an open PO, this would be one of the first reports to run to see if you do in fact have an open inventory PO. So this is purely for inventory purchase orders. So definitely want to put that out there. But then of course I have my report total at the bottom. And then just to run the summary really quick, again, just shows you total for the vendor. All right, so pretty straightforward on that end. So let's go ahead. And for those of you who are running our foreign exchange module, we do have actual Forex rates or current foreign exchange rates based on the PO. So based on the date of the PO, it will include that actual or for current. All right. So moving forward, committed sales orders. Again, a pretty aptly named report. It's showing you any item codes in your item list, and it will show you a summary at the front of the page. Let me extend this out a little bit. So on this front preparation page, or this report preparation page, it's showing you your items, and it's showing you a summary of those items, unallocated amounts, your on-hand allocated, all that good stuff. So if I see items that have unallocated amounts, then I can go ahead and select those to report for. And I can filter this list over here, this display criteria. I can specify for a specific warehouse, specify a specific item type or a specific inventory buyer. And then I can display only unallocated items. And then, of course, I can reset or select all or reset filter. And then, of course, based on what I'm choosing over here, I can refresh. And then here is our printing criteria. So based on what I select over here, I can specify, I only want to print my unallocated amounts, or I only want to print my allocated amounts. And here I can choose through a certain date. And this is just telling me out of 33 items, I have 2 selected. So that's really all that is. But when I click preview, oh, it would be best if I was showing unallocated or all. So here I see my items and I can see my allocated amounts and my unallocated amounts. So here I have 2 orders, same invoice number for 2 items, and they're both unallocated. So I have 5 committed to this order, but not committed to a specific lot. That is why the Z lot is popping up. And here, of course, I have 2 cases that are unallocated for this order. And here, of course, below each item, it would show you the individual line for unallocated amounts and allocated amounts. Of course, for each individual invoice number that it is committed to. Then down here at the bottom, it's going to show you the total of your allocated, PO committed, unallocated, on hand, etc. So again, you can set up the display screen to display certain items by this filter information, and then based on what you select in here, it's going to show you. You can choose what to print. All right. So that again, pretty straightforward report. All right, forecast inventory movement. So this is a nice report. I like this one. In fact, I like most of our reports. But warehouse, of course, you can filter by warehouse, or you can set for all. You can filter by categories, types, or groups. So, of course, if I wanted to look up a specific type of item, I can specify that, and it would only show items under that type, or vice versa for group or category. And then, of course, I do have a couple of other options here as well. Include items with 0 inventory balance. So I can, it's going to exclude those items currently because, again, this is a forecast report. So we're looking for items that I have in stock initially to sell. But if you wanted to include items with 0 inventory balance, because maybe you have sales orders for the future that have those items on there, of course, you can include those. Include open POs due in or before the report date into stock. So basically, this is going to include item quantities due in as inventory available. If you don't want to include that, if you only want to include what is physically there, of course you can uncheck that. And then display open transactions equal to or earlier than the starting stock value date. So this is going to display, well, that's pretty straightforward. Open transactions equal to or earlier than the starting stock value date, just to give you an idea of what that starting stock is calculated as. And then begin the inventory forecast using the current calendar date. So we can, of course, do that, or it typically starts day before, or I'm sorry, day after. And then display catch weight items and preferred UOM. So those of you who are using catch weight items, that is what I would prefer you check. Otherwise, it'll just show in pound or whatever the weight UOM is as far as your master is concerned. But if you want to display in the quantitative unit of measure or cases or eaches, whatever it may be, then you'll want to go ahead and check that option. So then, of course, we get down here to how we want to prepare this forecast. So we can prepare the forecast beginning from a certain date, and then we can calculate for the next certain number of weeks or a certain number of days, however you want to run that. So if you wanted to run, I'm going to say 2 weeks. And then, of course, calculate average sales. So I can calculate my average sales based on a date range if I wanted to. And then I can include items used in pack and transfers or packouts. So for those of you who are using pack and transfers or packouts, wouldn't be bad to select that option so that we include those as our average calculation. And then these are just grouping options. Do I want to group by category or by type, or no grouping, which will basically just show you item code or item code in sequence. But based on this information, I'm just going to go ahead and prepare my report for everything. And this is essentially what I am seeing. So I see my item codes, I see my description, so just basic item information in the first 3 columns. And then it's going to give me my beginning stock value, my beginning inventory value as of my starting date. So here I have my stock value. Here are my average sales, or my average sale calculation. And then here I'm going to go ahead and move into my actual transactions, or just a summary of my transactions that are happening for these next few days, or for this week. So here I have, and it's giving me just a really quick look at my week supply. If I have ample supply, of course, it's going to just show ample, which I just love that word. It's not used enough. And then, of course, in red, if I am short. So it will show me my short value. So this is a great report to run for the coming weeks to see if I really need to take a look at what I might need to reorder. Of course, another great report is our inventory reorder list, but this kind of gives it in a nice summarized fashion. So anyway, it does show you what's coming in, what is going out, and then gives me my stock for the next week based on that, based on my original stock and my in and out. And then it's giving me my in and out for the next week. And then, of course, it's showing me what my stock will be after that. So that is basically it. And then you can export this to Excel. So there's no actual print option for this. You'll have to export to Excel. And then, of course, you could print from there. Or I can go back to setup page and change these settings as needed. All right. So again, great report for forecasting in just kind of a summarized view. When we get back down to the inventory reorder list, which we have shown in the purchases and sales reports as well, but I will show it again in here just to give you an idea of which report might be best for that. All right. Moving on to inventory movement report. So here is this one and a few others that we're going to see show a lot of the same information. So just bear with me on that. So again, I can filter by category, by types, or by items. So if I wanted to filter my list by that, I could. Inventory on hand from, so I can specify a date range to see. I can specify a date range to see my movement of my inventory. So from this date to this date, what happened with my inventory. And then if I wanted to show details of transactions, I can go ahead and select that. Otherwise, it would just give me a summary of, total sales, total packouts, total purchases, all that good stuff. So I'm going to not show details at first, and then I'll rerun with details just so you can see the difference. Show delivered invoices as sold. So typically our delivered and open invoices kind of hit the same mark as far as reporting because it hasn't hit our AR. However, since delivered invoices do have the inventory out of your warehouse, not a bad idea to check that as delivered as sold. Exclude zero quantity on hand. So if you wanted to include items with zero quantity for this report, you can go ahead and see that. Otherwise, it'll be excluded. And then print master count totals. So this is, I'll go and check that and show you exactly what that looks like. And then order by item code or description. So pretty straightforward, however you want to order this report for. But I'm going to go ahead and click preview. So this is, like I said, this is without showing details. This is just showing my items, and it's showing me my opening balance, my received in or packed in, my sold, credited, adjusted. So basically all of the transactions that you can think of are listed in here. And then it gives me my closing inventory balance. Excuse me. And so if I show details, here it's going to show me the, well, for lack of a better term, details for these. So here I got my transaction details for my hash browns. Received, it'll give me the lot number. So it'll give me transferred amounts. It'll give me my pack out information. And it is giving me more detailed information received as transfer, transfer from warehouse to default. and so on and so forth. So it gives me my totals at the top, and then it gives me the transaction details down at the bottom. So here I can see any transactions amounts. It'll give me like my adjusted amounts right here. All right. So that is basically this report. So it's just describing to you what was transferred, or what was, I shouldn't say transferred, what was transacted as far as items are concerned. And of course, if you're showing details, it'll show you the individual lots and giving you the details of those transactions. All right. And so the reason that I mentioned it does show some similar information to reports that we're going to see a little bit later, such as the lot analysis report and things like that. But again, once we get there. Oh, and you will notice I only have the ability to export for a summarized version of this report. That is based on whoever requested the export. That was the request, so just bear that in mind. You can only export that summarized version, not with details. All right, back under inventory on hand by lot. So this one, as you can see, not a lot of features to filter the report by. You can only go one warehouse. Oh, no, I apologize. You can go all warehouses. You can print the item type if you want to. I can see my regular lots, my Z lots, or both. So let's go ahead and go both for right now. And I'll click preview. And so this is basically just showing me my lots for this item. So the Z lot is basically any allocated amounts or unallocated amounts that I have for this item. So here I've got River City 10 cases available for this lot, and then I have 2 that are allocated to an order. And of course, I can see that from the committed orders report that we saw earlier. So that's basically it. It's just showing you what's available for your warehouse for each individual lot, and it's giving you the basic lot information, lot number and the vendor, receive date, and on hand versus available quantity. Right. And then of course it'll give you a total for your items as well. All right. And then of course print item type is just going to print the item type along with that item, just so that you can see that. And then show storage charges. If you are using storage vendors, it will show storage charges for these lots as well if you are using those. All right. Inventory on hand by warehouse. So here I can specify the warehouse that I want to look at. So this one is per warehouse, as per the name. So I select the warehouse I want. I can further filter by inventory items or by buyers. Again, that is by the inventory buyer. And then I can report inventory information as of a certain date. So that's going to be your availability and everything like that as of this date. Again, exclude items with 0 quantities if I want to. I can show lot detail if I want to. And then these are just order options. And then I've got 2 layouts that I can see. I can see the standard layout, which is just the inventory and quantity information. And then I can see layout with cost. So that will just give me my cost information. And if I am using cost, do I want to see true cost or current market cost? So those are my options right now as far as showing cost. But when I click preview, this is essentially what the report looks like. So it's showing me if I had a buyer, it'll show me the buyer for that item. It will show me lot number, receive date, any specific lot information like production date, label. But then it will show me my unit cost, my total inventory, my warehouse, my extended cost, and my average unit cost. So I apologize. I think I mixed up terms here. So that's standard layout. So let's run the cost layout after this, and we'll see that. But yeah, so very similar to the report that we just saw. It's showing you that lot information, and then it's showing you the totals for the item itself. All right, so let's see the layout with costs, without costs. Oh, I apologize. I read that incorrectly. So standard has the costs, and layout without costs obviously does not have costs. So I mixed those two up, and I do apologize for that. I just looked at that just a little bit too quickly. But either way, here is what it looks like without the cost. So it basically just takes out those columns. All right. Okay, again, apologies for that little mix up there. But that is, again, per warehouse. So if you wanted to look for other warehouses, you will have to select that warehouse before running the report. Oops, sorry. Clicked a little bit too quickly there. Back to inventory reports. And inventory on hand received prior to a date. So again, pretty straightforward label. Inventory that is on hand received prior to a specific date. So I can choose whatever date I want to. I can choose, again, per warehouse, per inventory buyer. I can choose not to show the weight column if I don't have catch weights, or if I do have catch weights, I can remove the weight column and just show the quantitative unit of measure. And then, of course, I can choose different aging periods to see how long this item or this lot has been sitting in my warehouse. And then, of course, I have my order by item code or description. So very similar to what we've been looking at so far. But when I click preview, this one's taking just a bit. And I do apologize, guys. This may be a version error. Okay. What I'm going to do, guys, really quickly, I apologize. I'm going to go ahead and close this because I don't want to waste too much time just having this report load up. So 1 second, I'm going to end this and log back into the system really quickly. Okay, so again, any questions that you have on that report, I apologize, we couldn't load it up. Again, that may just be on this particular version. So if you have any questions about that, let me know, and then we can send you more information about that particular report. But I don't want to keep us all on the phone just waiting for one individual report. So we'll skip that one for now. Okay. Inventory pre-allocation report. So a lot of filter options or a lot of selection options. So by group, category, type, item, I can choose my warehouse or my inventory buyer. I can choose my receiving date. So I'm going to go ahead and backdate this a little bit. And I'll go ahead and choose here. And then I can include all lots, receive POs and pack and transfers, or open POs and pack and transfers. So this is just basically saying, do I want to see my open POs or my receive POs? Grouping by item, warehouse, or warehouse item. And then ordering by whichever date that I wanted to, by receiving date, delivery date, ETA date, if you work with ETAs on your purchase orders, next charge date, lot number, or buyer code. But when I preview this report, here I can see my item code that I'm looking at. I can see which warehouse I'm reporting for, and here is the lot that I have. Here is my quantity, my purchasing price, my next charge date, excuse me, and my lot number. So these are lots that are allocated to certain transactions. I apologize. I am looking a little bit harder really quickly just to get a bit more information on this. Okay, I apologize, everybody. It's been a while since I've run this report, so I'm actually running blank here on what this is actually showing me. So again, I'm actually gonna send this information out. I'm gonna show you what this report actually shows in the follow-up email. I do apologize about that. So let's skip that one as well for now. Okay, so inventory on hand or received prior to and pre-allocation. All right, so those two I will get you more information on afterwards. All right. So a report that we have reported before, but I do want to just go through for those of you who haven't seen those trainings yet. The inventory reorder list, again, can be accessed from the inventory reports or from purchases reports or sales reports. But essentially what it is showing you is what you currently have on hand, and it's telling you if you need to reorder in any inventory. And it can be run by different methods. It can be run basically by demand. So basically, what I am selling versus what I have, and it'll tell me what I need for what I'm selling. You can also use those par levels we talked about last week in the inventory item master. If you wanted to set up a default number of cases or default number of units that you always want in your system, if you set that up, it will tell you how much you need to order in order to match that amount. So that is what this include minimum quantity and required levels option is for. So if you wanted to include those par levels, you just select that option. But here, you can report open sales orders up to a certain date, report open purchase orders up to a certain date to make sure if we have purchase orders coming in already that might satisfy those orders, then we'll take that into consideration. You also have the ability to run these on strictly on certain dates. However, bear in mind that's perfectly fine for open sales orders. We do give you the option for purchase orders as well. But if you do have open purchase orders that might be received before this date, it might throw things a little off. So just bear that in mind when you're setting this report up. So I typically prefer the delivery date up to and open POs received date up to options. It kind of encompasses a lot more information. Of course, you have different selection options, different filter options. The main thing I want to show you is this print option because it gives you a couple of different items here. So I can print all items, no matter whether there's a short quantity or not. It will print that item on this report based on what I've selected, of course. Short items only based on the total available amount. So this is only going to print items with short items. Short over items is going to print pretty much anything based on the total availability. So if there isn't anything available at that moment, then it's not going to print that. But if it is short based on the availability, then we will see that item. And then short items with zero on-hand quantity. So this will print the short items even if the item had zero on-hand availability to begin with. So I'll just go short items only, and we'll see what we have here. I don't think I have too many items to show with short items only. Yeah, I only have a few. So here I have my two items, this brisket and my greens. It shows me my quantity on hand, my open sales, and again, this is for catch weight items. It'll show you your master and your preferred, but it shows you what you have on hand, your open sales, your quantity on order, if there is any, and your total availability. Now here, I have quantities that I need to reorder for demand. Here, I don't have any quantity for demand, but I have a minimum order quantity that I need to reach. So it gives me my minimum quantity and my required level. So it tells me how much I need to receive in order to bring me back up to that required level. So again, this or the forecast inventory movement report are great reports to run to see what you might need to purchase in order to satisfy your demand. But there are a couple of other different ways to run this report. So feel free to run this however you need to see different options. And then if you have any questions beyond that, let us know. Okay, so back down here, inventory specification report. So this is specifically an export, and we have a single or an extended layout. So extended layout just includes a little bit more information about the item, but essentially this is including all the information that you need for this particular for items. So very similar to like an item master report, but it's specifically for specifically for Excel. Thank you. So again, I can filter by different item options if I wanted to. I can even go based on priority one vendors. And then here's some other information if I wanted to include it, such as do I want to only include active inventory items? Do I want to include UPCA codes or even ITF codes? And then if I was doing my general ledger by item, it'll give me the ability to display GL account information as well. And then this is just ordering information. And then the extended layout includes GTIN codes with separated check digit. So that's one of the other major features for the extended layout. But just to show you the single layout, I'll prepare this report, and it'll give you a file location that it will export to. So if you just click yes, and then this is basically what is shown. It shows you the type, the code, description. So it's just all that information for the item itself. So dimensions and volume, pallet configuration, UPC numbers, as we talked about, harmonized tariff symbol, duty, scheduled name, anything like that. So that is the inventory specification report. So that's a really great one if you wanted item master information for an item to export to Excel. Because the other report that we have that I'm actually going to skip down to really quickly is the item master report. So the item master report shows a lot of that same information, but purely in a printout. So no Excel export option here. So and it does limit you on the filtering options as well. Here we only have the ability to choose between categories and types. And then of course we can group by one of those options depending on what we're selecting. And then if we wanted to print alternate UOMs, that is an option here that we don't get in the inventory specification report. So this is a nice feature in the item master report. And then of course we have that barcode as well. And then of course here's the options to include active or inactive or both, and then the ordering option. But here shows me some of that same information just in a different way. So here I have my items, I have my master UOM, pack size, brand, so same information there. Factor for my alternates if I have alternates, and it is showing me my current price and future price. And then it shows me whether it's active, of course. So that is basically it. All right, running back through up to inventory status report. So the inventory status report is a great report. Again, at the end of at the end of your fiscal period to make sure that your inventory is matching as far as your inventory amounts. So in here, we're gonna basically set up the basics for this report. What date are we reporting as of? So that includes our availability, our cost, and everything like that. What warehouse are we running for? So we have the ability to run for individuals. We have the ability to run for all warehouses reported separately or consolidated. I can see my total inventory, my on hand, or my total available. So I'm just going to run for total inventory. And the major differences between here are total on hand is what I currently have on hand, like basically what I have ownership of. And then my total available is basically showing me what I currently have physically in the warehouse. And then my total inventory Oh, I apologize. I mixed that up. Total inventory is what I have ownership of, including what has shipped out but not billed. My total on hand is what I have physical, and my total available is what I have physically minus my committed amounts. If I am including cost, or I am including cost in here, do I want to show by true cost, current, or market, or true cost, current market, or last cost? Oh, I'm losing my mouth in this. So true cost is basically based on the lot, of course, and then last cost is based on the last landed cost, and current market if you are using market cost as your fixed market cost. If I'm running true cost, I have the ability to exclude add-on costs if I wanted to. So when I'm running for lots, I can exclude those add-on cost items, such as maybe you don't want to include storage cost in the cost of this item when reporting this. You have the ability to exclude those in here. And that just takes us to this tab. So you can either press the exclude add-on cost button or select the unselect add-on tab. I can choose to exclude items with zero quantities. Again, show my lot detail. So if I'm not showing lot detail, we'll consolidate all that information just for the item itself. But if I wanted to show specific lots, I could do that. And then report net weight items in receiving unit of weight. So here, it would typically just show your net weight items if you use net weight items um, in the units of measure, such as case or each. But here it will show the poundage information as well. All right, and then of course we've got group by options, by general ledger account, by item type. So if you're not using general ledger account, don't worry about that. And then of course don't group is just going to show all your items together. And then here's the order option. So some of the same options that we've seen in the other reports. Then the other page after this request tab is the select items tab. So here's where we have those filter options. What items do we want to show? Do we want to show all items, only active or inactive items? And between those, do we want to set by select different types, categories, or groups, or specific items? And then the general ledger account and the buyer is based on the item itself in the item master. And then we have these filter options if we are filtering by standard items. So we can choose a particular customer to look up and specify standard items, or vendors. I apologize. It is showing different vendors, and we can filter by those standard items. Now, if you are filtering by standard item, oh, I apologize. That's not what I meant to say. If I'm showing lot details, I believe there was an option. Oh, it was the grouping option. I apologize. Good to read those things. If I am grouping by item type or inventory general ledger, I do not have the ability to export. So just bear in mind that note that I obviously was not bearing in mind as I was just rambling on in your ears. So I'm just going to run for all of my items. I'm going to go ahead and click preview. There's nothing to print. It would be good if I clicked the right item selection. There we go. So here, of course, I see all of my items, and I see my lot detail because I am showing in my lot detail, and it's showing me my total inventory, my unbilled, my on-hand committed, my on-hand available, my total inventory extended, and my unit and my average unit cost. All right, so pretty straightforward on that. And again, for those who are using catch weights, it will show you for both your preferred and your master unit of measure, as well as for any of those who are using net weight items. Will also show for your will also show you for your uh, receiving weight unit of measure and your master unit of measure. All right, so that's a great report, and the reason I did make the comment that it's a good report to use at the end of the fiscal period is to make sure at the end of the report it will give you the total balance of your items. which is another reason why I went total inventory, because your general ledger will be based on your total inventory amount, not just your on-hand available amount. So bear that in mind if you are comparing to your general ledger inventory account. It's good to run for total inventory. The inventory status summary. So very similar report, but as you can see, a little bit easier to set up, not as many tabs involved. Excuse me. I can specify the PO received on or before a specific date. I can see my open PO scheduled to be received on or before a certain date. I can choose between those date options. I can choose inventory items or again by buyer. I can export to Excel. I can choose a standard layout, flat layout, or flat layout with subtotals. I'm only going to run the standard layout, so for those of you who are interested in the flat or the flat with subtotals, please run those and let me know if you have any questions. And then, of course, I have my order options. So here, and again, I can choose for all warehouses or individual warehouses. But when I click preview here, so this, of course, is not giving you the option to run just for items based on the PO received on and the open PO received on. This is based on lots. So it's going to show you your lot information regardless. And it's going to show you all of that lot information we've seen in the other reports, warehouse, vendor, receive date, cost, on hand, available. So it's kind of cutting down the number of columns, giving you some different columns to look at or some different information to look at. But regardless, it is still calculating the total value of the inventory. And for catch weight items or for regular items that might have pounds, it is going to show you the total units in pounds as well as cases. All right. So again, very, very similar to the other report we saw, just a little bit different. And then this is just the standard layout for the export to Excel. Here we go. All right. So as you can see, pretty much the same as the report itself. Just breaks it down into columns instead of stacked on each other. All right. So moving ever forward. The inventory transaction report. So here is where we're getting into similar reports that we saw, such as the inventory movement report. So the inventory transaction report is going to look at your items. So it's just an item selection, no types or categories or anything like that. I can choose again to show by warehouse consolidated separately or my individuals. And then I'm going to choose my transaction date. So just like the inventory movement report, the date range is based on these transaction dates. So let's go ahead and I'll just leave it just like that. I'm going to show all my items. And then I can exclude freight from my sales if I wanted to. This is if you are using that unit freight column. So don't worry about that if you're not. If I wanted to print my lot numbers, I could do that. So that would show me my details. Otherwise, it's just going to show me summarized for my items. And then I can do a subtotal by date if I wanted to. But when I click preview here, it's going to show me my item code. It's going to show me my purchases packed out, made, or transferred in. By pack out made, I mean it was an item made on a pack out. It will show me the quantity received and the total amount of that quantity, and then any transactions out. So pack outs used, transferred out, anything like that. It's going to show me that information and the total amount. So here it'll give me a subtotal per item. And then here I've got this other one. This item was made. And then it just shows me there wasn't any transactions for that item. So that is basically what it is showing you, is just purchase items and their amounts. Now, if I showed lot numbers, so here I have the individual lot numbers that the individual lot numbers that were received and used. All right, so here, inventory adjustment, physical count, I adjusted out this lot and so on. And again, it gives me my totals, regardless of the lot information, it'll give me the total for the item at the bottom. But that's basically all the lot number option does, is just shows the lot numbers for those transactions. Okay, so that was the inventory transaction report. We also have the inventory transaction report receiver. The only difference between this report and the one we just looked at is how you're selecting the item. You can select the item like we did before, or you can select by vendor, but you're going to choose a receive date, not just based on a transaction date. So again, I'll go ahead and pop some dates in here really quick. But I can also choose by purchase order. So if I wanted to look for a specific lot, I could do that as well. And then here I have the ability to run a detail, a summary, or detail and summary. So a couple of different options here, but I'm just going to go ahead and click preview for everything really quickly. So this is the detail. As you can see, it's very, very similar to the report we just saw. Shows us what items, or how much of this item was made and the total cost of it. And then it shows us any amounts that were sold as well, or any amounts that were transferred out. So it shows you the details, and it shows you the summaries for the items itself. And then, of course, the summary report is a little bit cleaner. Just shows you the items and the total columns. So just the total amounts for those items. So that is basically that. And then, of course, it will show you the summary total for the report as a whole. All right. So moving on. Inventory valuation report. Excuse me. So this one I also haven't run for a while. I'm going to step through it with you guys. I can choose by warehouse or by individual warehouse. I can select which items I want to, or by any of these selection options. Again, I can exclude items with zero quantity if I wanted to. And here I can calculate the average price based on a certain number of days or sales. And then, of course, my ordering or grouping options. So when I click preview, very simply showing my items, my item information, total available quantity, total weight, if that is part of the item. And then it's showing me my cost valuation, and my projected average price based on the number of days or number of sales I selected. So pretty straightforward report on that, even though I haven't run it myself for very often. All right. All right. So we talked about the item master report already. Let's see, line item orders. I'm actually going to skip this report. It actually isn't run too often. So again, if you have questions, let me know, and I will get you more information on this report. But I don't want to feed you any wrong information, so I'm going to skip that one for now. Lot analysis report. So these are going to be a little bit similar to the transaction report, but this is based on the lot, not just the item. So here I can filter this list that I see originally by vendor, or by date from and date to, that is based on the receive date of the lot. So I can filter by that. And then based on what I am filtering by, I can go ahead and choose a specific lot. So you'll see the items do repeat based on each lot that I have available. So I'm going to go ahead and choose this one right here, and I'm going to extend this out really quickly so you have a little bit better look. Oh, I can't extend it. I apologize. Oh, that's basically all there is. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and choose that lot, and then I'll go ahead and choose one of these steak pies, and let's go ahead and go with a brisket. Everybody likes a brisket. So, unless you're a vegetarian, then I apologize. But anyway, I can print sales, pack outs, customer names for those sales. I can include freight charges, also include transfers, and then I can display sales and profitability for pack outs. So if I didn't select this, it would show me the pack out information, but it wouldn't show anything beyond that. And then I can choose to show display total made and sold for pack outs as well. But what I'm going to do, I can, again, just like the last transaction report we saw, I can run in detail and summary. So I'll run the detail report first, and then when I close that, it will run the summary report for me. Or I can just run by summary or by detail, or I can do summary by vendor, whichever one you would prefer. But here I'm just going to go ahead and run the detail, or I'll run both. That'll be easy. And then I can export to Excel. I can print preview, which I'm going to go ahead and preview. And here, and actually before I take a look at that, I am going to go ahead and select my packout information just to make sure we're covering all our bases. All right. Oh, and I do apologize. My printer driver cuts off this side of the report. So give me 1 second. Let me go ahead and undo these options because I think that affected that. Yep, there we go. Okay, so this is essentially what it looks like. If we were running the details for packouts, you would actually see it with the packout itself. So here I can see my purchase information. If I had sold or used any of this inventory, it would show me those details as well. Let's go ahead and find one. None of these that I selected have that. So let me go ahead and select all. Let's go ahead and preview that. Take just a second to crunch all of these lots. All right, so here we see purchases, my sales information. So it'll show me the invoice number that it was sold on, the name of the customer, and all that good stuff. And then it gives me the total quantity on that invoice. And this, of course, is showing me my credit information as well. All right, so, and it'll show me more than just my sales. It shows me my inventory adjustments and shows me the reason behind that inventory adjustment. And just seeing if I have anything. So here's physical inventory. I can see I had a few items updated on physical inventory. And here we go. Here's a pack out. So this item was purchased here, sold in these particular sales orders, and then used on this particular pack out. And it gives me, of course, the amount that was used. So this one was used in quite a few things, but it gives me my total sales, total packouts, total adjusted, and of course my profit information for that item. So it will show me my lot profitability, and that goes for all of the reports that we've seen so far, the transaction reports included. And then of course the the summary report is going to show you the same information, just summarized per lot and per field. So total adjusted over here, total packouts, sales and credits, and my balance and profit and loss. All right. So we have some other options as well. So I'm not going to run these because they are the same exact report, just different selection options. So lot analysis by selected PO. I have a lot of the same features that I can run. The only difference is instead of selecting the individual lot, I can select a specific load ID or a specific PO. So this one I'm selecting by load ID. And then the other option is by selected PO. So I can go based on those. And that will just show me all of the items on that particular load ID or that particular purchase order. But it is the same exact report as the lot analysis report. So same information reported. Lot expiration report. So if you have expiration dates for your lot numbers that you've entered in when receiving, this of course is just going to show you your lot of items that are going to perish within so many days. So here I can specify, all right, I want to see all my lots that are going to perish within 30 days. I don't think I have anything set in here. I don't think I've been as diligent. There we go. I got one. Haha. So I've got one item that I've set an expiration date for, and I can see that expiration date, see the total amount for that lot right now. So total available quantity and my total cost. So if I did have to adjust out based on this expiration date, I know basically what I'm looking at or what I'm losing before that adjustment. All right. Lot traceability. So of course, this is one of our biggest reports. Uh, it's basically what we are made for is traceability. So we've got two modes. We've got a forward mode and a reverse mode. It's ending up telling you the same information. It's going to tell you where this lot came from what vendor on what purchase order received on what date, and then it's going to show you where it was used and what it was, who it was sold to. So if it was used in a pack out, it would then take a look at that pack out and tell you who that pack out was sold to or where that item made was sold to. So this report is great for you know goodness sake, hope it doesn't happen that you get audited or anything like that. This is a great report that will cut that time down. Or if you had a recall of any kind, this is the report that you want to run. So if I know the lot number, if I'm running forward mode, if I know the lot number, I can go ahead and type that in. If I don't, I can select it based on the vendor that I received it from. So I can select the vendor, and from there I can select the lot. So, oh, okay, I'm looking for the celery diced item. And then I can suppress intermediate repacking lots if I wanted to. I can ignore reference and pack out if I wanted to. Print information stored in the label field. Print the company name when reporting the vendor name for pack out lots. Print lot expiration date. Customer purchase order number. So these are all just options that you have to print on the report. Basically, when I preview this, it's going to show me this lot, who it was received from, all that lot information, and then it's going to show me who it was sold to, on what invoice number, on what date, the amount that was sold, and it's going to show me that customer name and their contact number. So that is the forward mode, and then the reverse mode gives you the opposite. If you know an invoice number that it was sold to, or if you know a customer that it was sold to between a specific date, I can select that customer, choose the invoice if I have one. Let's go ahead and use, uh, I know I've sold to Jerry Seafood. Oops, select invoice. So here's my invoice. I can look up my item from here. Okay, yep, it was the hot sausage that I need to take a look at, and gives me my lot information. So here I preview, and again, shows me the vendor and lot information, and it shows me the invoice and the customer. So that is the inventory or the lot traceability report. Uh, and moving on, we just have a few more. Print inventory catalog. So here, I believe this is just showing me as of a certain date, and I apologize, I haven't run this report very often as well. So let me go ahead and preview this. Okay, so it's just very, very It's very straightforward. It's just showing me by category and type. It's showing me my items, their quantities, and their units. So it looks like that is what this catalog is for. Let me go ahead and skip this one for today as well. And if you guys want more information, let me know, and I will get more information on that and email that out to you, because I don't want to bog us down with that. Uh, Print retail labels. So if we wanted to print labels for these items, these are retail labels for these items. I can go ahead and print number of labels. If I wanted to include the GTIN, I can show the GTIN on here. Now this is the GTIN from the item master, so it doesn't give you the ability to override or anything like that. So I can go ahead and just print labels from here. And these are based on thermal labels. So this isn't going to be graphical layout. You can either choose the 3.5 by 4 or the 3 by 4 width. So regular retail label or shelf label. But that is basically it. So it just shows you the item information as well as the pack size and the GTIN. All right. And the last report is the transaction report by reason code. So we've got two options. The adjustment report or the adjustment transaction is very similar to the adjustment report that we've seen up here, but it includes other adjustment options as well, or other transaction options as well. It goes by adjustment reasons, or you can even look up by credit reasons as well. So here we've got our credit reasons. So basically, any transaction not including sales or transfers or packouts is included in this transaction report. But essentially, it is the same report that we saw earlier. It'll show us the items, the transaction type, the reason code, and the amount transferred. And then the last option is the details and summary. So here I can select for a customer, or I can leave blank for all. So I'll leave blank for all, and I'll go ahead and choose a date range. I can choose my transaction reason. So this is based purely on credits. And so if I choose to preview here, it just shows by reason code. Here is my damage, my miscount, and my spoil. So I do apologize, I misspoke. It's not just for credits. It is for my adjustment reasons. But this gives me my total for those adjustment reasons. And then, of course, my detail will show me my line item information as well. So pretty much the same thing, just showed in a different way as the adjustment report that we saw earlier. All right. So that actually did take a little bit longer than expected because there were a couple of hiccups along the road. I do apologize about those, but that is basically our inventory reports area. Again, for those reports that we didn't cover, I will send out information on those later on. And for any of you that have questions for any of the reports that we did talk about and you wanted some more information, please let me know and I'll be glad to help out with that as well. Otherwise, thank you guys for coming along, and hope you learned something. Hope I didn't put too many of you to sleep, and if I did, you're welcome for the nap. Otherwise, I will see you again later. We are going to have this same training on Thursday, and then next week we are actually going to be starting our payables area. So please stay tuned for that. Otherwise, have a great day, guys, and thank you all for coming.